Now, when I tell people sustainable development, what is that? It's a big, broad thing, right? Simplest definition for me has to do with providing for our needs today as a society and making sure that we don't impede on the needs of the future. Our kids, our grandchildren, and I know that everyone on earth cares about those things. Enabling that to happen, how do we do that? That's the challenge, right? And certainly when I deal with practitioners in sustainable development, they've identified a real gap between the vision of sustainability or sustainable development and what that looks like on the ground. It's just not happening in a lot of cases. So this is where project management comes in. Project management is a methodology to get from where we're at today to where we want to be tomorrow. A tool that I've developed over many years of studying the intersection of project management, leadership, negotiation, and change management. DREAM stands for 5 things. The first is discover. Discover is about discovering ourselves, discovering our teams, discovering organizations, and discovering what sustainable development is, especially from a planetary concept, a global context. Reach, the second step, is about vision, mission, values, and especially defining what success looks like so that we know when we get there we've accomplished our goal. And then elaborate is simply the methodology to get from 1 to 2. How do we get from where we're at today to where we want to be tomorrow? So elaborate, the word itself is about progressive elaboration. In project management, we tend to elaborate our plans the closer we get to our destination because we find out more information, get better details, and that enables us to better plan our resources and our time and our money. And then moving into the other quadrant, bottom right-hand side here, we have ACT. And ACT is about putting the plan into action. Taking our elaborated plan up here, making it happen, because without action, a plan that stays on the shelf is simply wishful thinking. It's just not going to happen. And then finally we have monitor. And monitoring, I want to focus on the measurement aspect of it. There's also things that we want to celebrate. Motivation also fits in there. But monitoring is about measuring our results. So as we're moving along our path from here to our reach, we have to look back sometimes and say, have we done what we said we were going to do? What I want to do is look at a methodology that's been widely accepted worldwide for sustainability and sustainable development. It's called the natural path, and what I'm going to do is walk you through and show you how it fits into this particular aspect here. So the first thing in Discover, when we look at inputs into this DREAM MasterKey from the natural path, are the concept of the funnel. Okay, so we have the Earth is supplying a whole bunch of things to humanity and the rest of the planet, and that is a supply issue. Is we are using up these resources, so we have a downward curve here, and on the demand side, what's happening is that people are putting pressure on these resources. And eventually, if we continue on the path that we're on today, these two are going to intersect. And basically what's going to happen is that the planet will not be able to provide our needs anymore, so something drastic will have to happen. So the idea of the funnel is, are we able to take some actions today to make sure that that intersection doesn't happen? Okay, first concept. Second concept is that the Earth is a system. We have the atmosphere and we have the ground itself, and from there we have plant life and animal life, and they basically depend on each other to survive. So the plant life depends on sunlight to use photosynthesis to turn energy into growth, and then that growth is then fed to the animal world, and the cycle continues. Now this cycle has been going on for millions of years, okay, and it's worked really well. And what's happened is that people have showed up, and we're putting pressure on the whole system. And we're doing that through growth, right? So millions of years ago, it didn't matter that much. There were only a few people hanging around. Now we've got 7 billion people putting pressure on this Earth. It's almost like a concentric system pushing up against it. Okay, second concept. Third concept is that of human needs. Now, I've got a very convenient card here from the Natural Path, and there are 9 of them, but I will focus on, I'll just say a few words about one. Freedom, for instance, which is one of my top values, is the ability to give people choices. So from my perspective, that means that I get to make my own choices, get to live my life the way I want to live it, and I want to give that freedom to other people as well. So I want everyone to have that ability. So what I'm going to do is stick this one down here. What the Natural Step has done a really good job of doing is giving us a framework for what success looks like. So some criteria to basically put a boundary around what sustainable development could look like. And it's categorized in 4 different principles. The first one has to do with what we take out of the Earth, what we take out of the Earth's crust, so minerals, oil, all those things. And it says that sustainability doesn't do that continually. It doesn't take more than we need as a species. So that's the first concept up here. The second one has to do with what we're putting into the Earth, atmosphere, soils. And again, from a sustainability perspective, our practices right now are not sustainable. We're putting too much for the Earth to be able to absorb it. The third principle has to do with degradation, so things that we're destroying or moving around, like forests. And then the fourth one has to do with people itself, is that all of these things from a physical perspective, it's impacting our society in that we are not able to meet our own needs. So there's be some added pressure on that. And what this does, from a project management perspective, we call these constraints. So what we're doing is we're constraining, through this methodology, what it is that success looks like. So we're saying that we need to meet all 4 of these things. So again, this one here was, the first one is what we were taking out. Second one is what we're putting back in. Third one had to do with what we're destroying. And then the fourth one had to do with people. So how do we get from here to there? And what the success looks like? Well, we have to come up with a plan. These are strategies, okay? And I also look at elaborate as an opportunity to engage with people as well, because we want to co-create our future. We want to work with others, all the people on the planet, to come up with a plan that works, and we need to do that from where we stand right now. So essentially what we do here in Elaborate is come up with a plan. From a project management perspective, we use what we call a work breakdown structure. So we come up with the big goal, sustainable development for a particular project, and then we break that down into more areas. So imagine that these are sticky notes, and then finally we break that down even further into the next steps that we need to take, and it would look something like this. So we would do that for every particular branch of the task, and that gives us a starting point to get this done. If we just leave it at that, it's not going to get done. We have to take it to the next step, which is act. So now we're assigning resources, we're assigning money, and we're assigning people to those tasks. So whatever ends up as a task group down here, we need to give to someone or an organization to complete. And what that looks like, you may have heard of Gantt charts, is essentially a sequence of work packages that need to get done systematically, check mark when it's done. Now we've got monitor. And this is the piece from the Natural Step that I just love. They have the prioritizing questions, okay? And what it does, it gives us a measurement tool. So at the end of the day, when we've completed our project, we can compare it to these particular questions and see if we succeeded. If you recall, monitor is about, are we doing what we said we were going to do? Does it move us to the right direction with regards for sustainable principles? So sustainability was the overarching theme. Did we do what we said we were going to do? The second one is it a flexible platform? Because if we're too rigid in our planning, it doesn't allow us to change according to what we want to do. And therefore, is it a stepping stone toward future improvements? Second question. And finally, the third one is, does it provide an adequate return on investment to seed future investment?